Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to the first in a new video guide series for Marvel Strike Force. So in this series of videos we'll look at the different heroes and villains that are available in the game in really quite some depth. Now the first one that we will be covering will be Yondu, who's a fantastic hero. Now what I will cover in this video will include a general overview of the character and how to unlock him. We'll then check out his stats in comparison to other heroes, we'll have a look at his abilities, we'll look at synergies, and this is teams you want to place him in and teams you want to avoid, and then at the end I'll give my overall thoughts, and we'll also place him into what tier I believe he belongs in as well. So first up anyway, we'll have a look at the general character and how you unlock him. So as of the launch patch of Marvel Strike Force, Yondu can currently be farmed in Heroes 1.9 and Nexus 6.9. When we look at the tags available for him, he has Villain, Cosmic, Mystic, Support and Ravager. The important ones there are Cosmic and Mystic because they're two very tough campaigns, and because he's such a good character he really can help you pull through some of the more difficult missions that are available there. He can also really help out with the villain campaign that can be tough at times as well. When it comes to his class type, he's classed as support, but personally I feel he's more of a hybrid of a controller and a blaster class, and that's something that we'll talk about a bit more when we look at his actual skills. But what we'll do next is we'll have a look at his stats and we'll see where he sits compared to other heroes. Now before we actually look at the stats here, there's two things I'll mention. The first one being that low stats are important to a character. You can have a character with relatively low stats and abilities can more than make up for it, and Yondu is actually a character that falls into that category. Now secondly, for the scaling of the stats, I've done it from A to F. Now I'm not going to bore you too much here, but if you want a breakdown of how I came to that scaling, then check out the description of this particular video and there's further info there. Now the stats that we will look at will include 3 offensive stats and also 3 defensive stats as well. So first off, we'll have a look at the offensive stats. For the 3 offensive abilities then, we'll be having a look at damage, speed and focus. Now for damage, he would fall under a grade C. Now that doesn't seem very good considering the amount of damage he does put out, but that's pulled up a bit through his abilities because he has Pierce, so if you're going up against a tank who has high armour, you'll as a result of that end up doing more damage. So although it says C, he can still put out a nice amount of damage. When it comes to speed, he's in the higher tier, he's sitting at B, so he'll be able to get his skills off relatively quickly in matches. When we look at focus, this is rank C, but he doesn't actually apply any kind of debuffs to the target, and that's what focus is useful for. So this is a stat that may be in a lower bracket, but it doesn't really make any difference to him at all. So let's now check out the defensive stats. For the defensive stats then, we have health, armour and resistance, and as you can see from the colour grading here, he doesn't do great, but that's because he's not meant to be a tankier class. He is more of a glass cannon, he can put out a nice amount of damage, he can do a nice bit of crowd control, but he can't take too much of a hit. Now that is relevant in the fact that he has summons, but his summons gain 40% of his health, so that can make them really quite squishy because he himself is actually quite squishy. So health is rank D, armour is rank E, and then resistance, which is your ability to resist status effects such as slow, that is rank D. So you want to run him with a tank because if he's the focus of enemy fire, he really won't last long. But next up, we'll check out his abilities. So for this section here then, what we'll do is we'll look at his 3 base skills. That's his basic, his special and his ultimate, and we'll check out his passive as well. Now we're going to talk about them as if they were maxed out. So that's level 7 for your 3 skills and level 5 for your passive. So that way you know what you want to aim towards with the character. Now his passive skill is Centauri Hunter. So with this one, on turn you will copy a positive effect off of 2 enemies and apply the positive effect to yourself, and you also clear the positive effect from those particular enemies. So if you're going up against a team that has Black Widow, straight away you got the chance to remove speed up from 2 characters. If you're going up against a team that has tanks in it, you can remove the taunt. Now thankfully when you remove it, it won't apply the taunt to yourself, because that would really make this passive pretty dangerous if it did. But fantastic passive, one of the best ones in the game, I would say. For the basic attack, we have a skill called Jagged Edge. Now with this you attack the primary target for 200% damage. You also do 25% piercing, so it means it's useful to be used against tanks or targets that have high armour. Similar to the passive, you're able to clear 2 positive effects from the target that you hit with this particular skill. Now, the fact that it can clear 2 is very important, because a lot of tanks you go up against, when they cast their taunt, they'll normally cast defense up with it as well, so you don't want to remove the defense up and the taunt stays on them. So this allows you to completely remove the positive taunts from the tank, and then you can start to focus on the other enemies. For his special skill we have Boarding Party. This is a skill that takes 3 turns to charge up. Now with this you will summon 1 to 2 Ravengers. It is random how many come in, even at max level. They will do 270% of your normal damage, and they have 40% of your health, so they can put out a huge amount of damage, but they really are on the squishy side, and they'll get one shot off most characters. So for that reason you want to make sure that you use this particular skill when you've either taken out AoE characters, or the AoE characters have already used their big skill or it's not yet charged, because otherwise you'll summon them, Quake fires off their AoE for example, and both of them are gone straight away. Now with this skill it will apply offense up to all allies as well, so that makes it even nicer. For his ultimate we have that great skill from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when he's going through the ship and his arrows flying all over the screen. This is a Yaka arrow. Now in total it's 5 turns for it to charge, but thankfully it starts with 3 charges already. So with this it changed to all enemies who aren't stealthed for 250% unavoidable piercing damage, so it can do an insane amount of damage. The one thing you have to watch out for is characters that are stealthed. So if you're going up against, for example, Hand Sentry, who will stealth the whole team apart from him, you don't want to use it, because then you're only using it on that one character. So that's all the abilities covered. So what we'll do now is look at synergies, and we'll look at teams where Yondu can work great in, and we'll also look at characters you want to avoid going up against. When it comes to characters that you want to pair Yondu up with, the most obvious one would be Ravengers, and that's due to the fact his passive has that extra 5% damage to Ravenger characters. So we only have 3 in the game at the moment. It's the Boomer, the Bruiser and also the Stitcher. Now it's a nice little passive, but I wouldn't say it's worth building a team around. If we maybe get an extra powerful 5th Ravenger in time, then it could be worth looking at this again, but for the moment the benefit is there, but I wouldn't focus too much on it. Other characters you can work well with would include Kingpin and Nobu. The reason for that is if you go heavy on the summoners you can swarm the other team, and as long as they don't have lots of AoE characters, the team really won't know who to hit with as many as 10 characters on screen. When it comes to looking at characters you want to avoid going up against, it comes down to 2 factors really. One is the fact that his summons are squishy, and the second one is that you can't hit stealth targets with your ultimate skill. So in regards to the stealth targets, you want to avoid Hand Sentry because he can apply stealth to all allies, meaning if you use his ultimate after he's stealthed his allies, you'll only be hitting the sentry and he's got a chance to actually block it as well. When we look at the summons, you want to avoid AoE heavy characters, so that would include, but it's not limited to, Hydra Rifle Trooper, Hulk, Punisher, Quake, Rocket Raccoon and even Yondu himself with that ultimate skill. So with all that covered, what I'll now do is give my general thoughts and overview on them, and then we'll also place them in our tier list as well. So Yondu is without a doubt one of my favourite characters in the game. It's nothing to do with the Mary Poppins scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, as good as that was. He's just an all-round fantastic character. You've got the fact that he's got the Cosmic and Mystic tags on him, which means he can help out with those campaigns, and I imagine as they get unlocked further they will get pretty tough. so Yondu really will be your go-to character for helping you get through those story missions. Now, when we look at the class type, as we mentioned earlier, he is a support class, but he really offers so much more than that. He's realistically support, blaster, and also controller. He's got his debuffs, so he can neutralise tanks. He's got his summons, which can do a nice amount of damage, and also they can pull some aggro and take some of the hard hits as well. You've got the fence up on him, you've got the fantastic ultimate, and it's AoE, and then you've got his passive as well, which is again adding more crowd control, and it's removing taunts and it's removing positive effects from characters and even applying them on yourself as well. So fantastic character. He's the reason I did feature him as the first one that I would cover, because he's a character that I really do enjoy playing so much in game. But let's see where we'll place him in the tier list, and this shouldn't be much of a surprise. So we have 5 different tiers here when it comes to character classification. We start off with the weakest, which is level 1. This is characters you most likely want to avoid unless you're a huge fan of them. Then we have level 2, level 3, then we move up to alpha level, and finally, reserved for the best of characters, we have the omega level. So let's see where we place Yondu. So there we go, we now have our first omega level character in the game, so that shouldn't really be too much of a surprise given how much I've raved about him in this particular video. So this is the first in a new guide series that I'm doing, so I'm open to feedback about the format, if there's anything you'd like to see changed or added in, or even anything you'd like to see removed as well. Regarding the next character I will cover, I've not actually decided on that either, so please feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments below, and as always, thanks for tuning in for this video, and I'll see you all again soon.